Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spark. Today's guest is Philip, and Philip is a German entrepreneur who have been working in the startup world since the early 2000s. After his move to the US, he have been developing companies from ideas to acquisitions. He have raised more than $150 million in VC and angel funding. Philip will walk us through his journey, story, and all the mistakes he have made so far. He will even walk us through the footsteps of an early entrepreneur, how they should find an idea, find a problem, how to solve it, how to find a co-founder, and how to prep for success. Enjoy. Philip, hi. So nice to have you. For the people who are listening, I've been trying to get you on this podcast since November, actually. You directly said yes, but our timeline never met. And we are here recording today. I'm really happy. So, Philip, for everyone who's listening, who are you? Who is Philip? And why they should listen to this episode?
Thank you for having me. Who is Philip? Well, I just turned 40, so it was a good time for reflection. And I lived a few lives in the last 40 years. From growing up in Germany, being a computer nerd, discovering Silicon Valley. When I was 21, I moved to San Francisco and just realized all the nerdy stuff I was doing was completely normal there. I grew up in the Silicon Valley in my 20s and left Silicon Valley, was quite disillusioned at one point with the ethos over there, came back to Germany, went deep into crypto, left all of that behind, went deep into self-exploration and really relational work, so non-technical, but the human technology. And I'm back in the startup world now, supporting entrepreneurs and founders and founding teams as advisor, as supporter, and as investor. So a broad spectrum of the box that is Philip. And why people should listen. Yeah, I'm just really excited to share some of my learnings from my path, and I hope that people will find these experiences that I had meaningful and insightful for their own path, because I think we need people who are empowered and building stuff that they find meaningful and building that from start to finish. And if there's a next generation, so to say, coming and doing this and really defining the next decades on this planet, I want to be there to help. And I hope some of this will be useful for them.
I'm pretty sure of that. So, you lived 20 years in Germany. What then took you even to Silicon Valley? Why?
Yeah, I had no idea about Silicon Valley when I moved there.
What do you mean you had no idea?
I didn't know this place existed.
But you're a
yes,
computer science nerd. You should have heard about it.
I was a total computer nerd. In my teenage years, I would be one of these guys. Back then, there was big CRT monitors, carrying this to my friends' houses, and we would hang out and have LAN parties and all the kind of stuff. But I actually did not know what Silicon Valley was. But I had a job after high school in Frankfurt, Maine. And I worked as a software engineer / project manager, installing and creating software for large for large organizations, financial software for large organizations. So like SAP, dealing with invoices, dealing with purchase orders, and all this kind of stuff. And this company, small company, today we would say startup. Back then, small company. We opened up an office in San Francisco. To go into the US market. And I asked the guys, hey guys, can I go to San Francisco for a year and work there? Because I wanted to work there for a year and then go study. And that's
By studying, you mean university?
Exactly, then go to university.
So you never went to university before Silicon Valley, okay.
Yeah, so that never happened. I never went to university. I went to San Francisco.
Exciting.
Stayed there for about 12 years. But only then discovered really what San Francisco, Silicon Valley was. And so what brought me there was more the openness to just say, hey, this is interesting. I want to go there. I want to help. I want to build something. And the guys, my bosses, kudos to them. They said, yes, kid, come on over. So I was the second person to go there and help establish the US business. We got acquired a few weeks after I moved, actually. And then I was with that company for a little while, and then I started my own things.
Okay, walk us through that. Walk us first on about Silicon Valley in your 20s. And how did you build your own thing there? Why did you even build it?
Yeah.
You could have came back to Germany and stick to your normal plan. What did change your mind there? What was the shift?
So like, you have to transport yourself 20 years into the past
Yeah.
for a moment where I don't know if it was, I wouldn't say it was a bad word, but definitely wasn't a good word to be an entrepreneur in Germany. Like it was not something that people would do, starting their own software businesses or startups and raising money and all of that. Of course, there are people who build companies in Germany, like the Mittelstand, of course, existed then as well, for example. But I guess what really happened was a shift coming to San Francisco where everybody is building something cool. Like everybody is hustling and creating something from scratch. And which for me was part of the mentality of just creating and crafting things that were interesting to me. And so I got really permission being over there, being in the field of others who are building stuff, who are thinking about what does the future of X, Y, Z look like and how do we build it today? And so just like I encountered places like hacker houses. So I was like, wow, they're meeting on the weekends, just like we did. And they're building even cooler stuff here. And you get people from really influential companies and with really deep backgrounds in building software, like all the stuff that I would use back in Germany and would tinker with. The people there, they built it. So so there's a big shift in mentality and just the field of being there, and it really opened my imagination.
And what was your first company that you built over there?
So in the company where I was in Frankfurt, originally I was employee number 13, so like an early employee. And then in San Francisco, we actually founded two things at the same time. One was just social networks were starting to gain traction. So we were building an aggregator from all the different social networks so that you could have, how did we call it? Friends of friends? I forgot, but basically it was an aggregator of all the different things. Didn't go really far. And the other thing in 2007, I think, we founded a QR code and mobile website business. So QR codes, these little codes that are everywhere these days. 2007, they existed basically in Japan, but weren't really used in other places. It was just around the time when the iPhone came out, just slightly before that actually. And we were like, wouldn't it be cool if you had a QR code that links to the menu of your restaurant or that links to an ad for a house that is for sale? So you have a QR code there. And so we created software to create these small little mobile optimized websites. Back then, mobile optimized was really hard work. And then also build a QR code scanner that you could scan these codes with and link this up. So way ahead of the curve. It took a lot of time to really go on mainstream. But that was also pretty much one of the few things that we did more in the consumer facing technology.
And how it went?
We built it. It was very moderately used around San Francisco. In the end, the technology got acquired by somebody else and who rolled it up into their product. So that was the first acquisition, but it wasn't a big outcome or anything like that.
That was the next step then? Acquired and then?
The next step is that we founded Taulia, which is a company we founded in 2009. So my first job was in enterprise software, right? Enterprise fintech, even though it wasn't called fintech then. But in 2009, we came together with a few of the people from my first company, and we founded Taulia, which still exists today, got actually acquired by SAP. a couple of years back. So that went really from zero to unicorn.
Yeah.
And there we built a B2B SaaS network. So meaning we worked again with these largest corporates of the planet, and we connected all of their suppliers digitally through Taulia. So exchanging invoices, orders, payment information, and all this kind of stuff digitally instead of paper. And so that means the large ones, they can ingest all of this data and share all of this data digitally, great streamlining and so on. For the suppliers, they have direct access to the status of their invoice, status of their purchase order, so they can see what the business is like with their customers. But the key is we build financial products on top of that, so that the suppliers don't have to wait for their cash. So they can get paid much earlier. The concept was called dynamic discounting, or then also supply chain finance. So different ways of financing the supply chains of these large corporates. So I was one of the co-founders there. I was the technical, or one of the technical co-founders. My title was CTO then also, until I left the company six-ish years later, and grew San Francisco. We had offices in the US, in Europe, and like really grew. As I said, went into unicorn status in the end, and the team took it then for the acquisition to SAP. And very soon it's the 3-year acquisition anniversary. Somehow the current team still invites, like, hey, let's have a get together.
That's interesting. So at around 20, you left Germany, went to Silicon Valley, built 2 successful companies, one with a quite good exit and the other with really good exit, without university degree, without studying even in a university, only with some skills that you have learned when you were a teenager, how to code. And at that time, coding, I would suggest, was harder than now. Now you can ask ChatGPT, you can generate a whole
Now you go to ChatGPT or Lovable,
like,
or
yeah,
use
Hugging Face or whatever, and you find all the models that you need. Then what are the skills that you need to have as a successful entrepreneur? You are a successful entrepreneur. What are the most critical skills that you would say you need to have to be able to build successful venture?
Mm-hmm. I want to preface that with that there are very different, or very many ways to lead to success, right? And I have a personality, my ways of doing it, also the team composition that I worked with. Like, I couldn't have done this by myself at all, right? I have a certain fragment of successful entrepreneurship and business, and you need people, my opinion, you always need people who are complementary, a little bit different from each other, and then working together towards a common goal. But a few things that I have encountered, and that I also see when I work with founders now, that are really, really beneficial, especially if you're building a tech or a software company, is you need to understand what you're actually building and what you're building it on. You don't need to be the hardcore tech person. Somebody on your team will be that. But you need to have some kind of technical ability, because especially very early on with a small team, you're doing everybody does everything a little bit, right? So you cannot be too decoupled from what you're actually building. But I think the most important thing for me is that you really want to do it. Like, you have grit, like, you know how to somebody said this recently, you have to eat glass for a while. And I don't necessarily subscribe you have to kill yourself building what you're building, because then that doesn't serve anybody. If you are unwell, then it doesn't serve anyone. But you have to have audacity. Like, you have to go out and say, this is the big thing that I'm building, and I really believe in it. You have to have the grit, you have to have endurance, because usually it takes much longer what you build. You have to have the ability to cope with stress, because especially when it goes well, then you're going to move really, really fast. You're going to bring people on board. There's money involved. There's customers. Stuff will break. Like, it's high intensity in a way, and you have to trust also other people to collaborate with. Like, one thing that we see a lot, and also with my previous companies, founder issues, like really the relational issues, they can and break companies apart. Like you have to be able to trust and collaborate really well. And one thing you definitely have to do is you have to be able to sell. You have to be able to go in front of a customer and sell the thing that you're building. You have to tell a story. You have to wrap the story in something that's digestible by the audience, and you have to transport it to somewhere. And especially telling this to the technical founders, because I see that also technical founders who have no ability to communicate haven't developed that skill. And that's a skill that you can develop: communication, storytelling, and selling to your customers, to your investors, to your team, to the people who follow you. I think it's a hugely important skill.
So would you say a technical co-founder needs a business co-founder, or that's not the case? I just read a paper where basically from what I see from their interview, they have this idea that a technical co-founder does not need a business co-founder, but a business co-founder does need a technical co-founder, because whatever the business guy can do, the technical can learn it. Like the technical co-founder can learn everything from sales to, I don't know, creating a business plan, marketing, whatever. But the business guy will have hard time learning how to code, how to build a tech stack, what are the frameworks, how to what's even an API.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about it?
Mm-hmm. I would agree with this notion personally, and also I come from the tech side, but
yes, for the techies, I'm also a techie.
but the key thing is the business person, she or he might have a great idea, but you need somebody to build it. What doesn't work as a founder if you outsource that to somebody else to build it. If you're a product company, you need to build your own product. And if you're a tech person, at some point you need to commercialize this. It's true that there's a learning curve. So that you can acquire these skills, but I think the best thing is if you have if this is the spectrum from so technical you don't even want to talk to another person, and this is you're just a business person, or just you're a business person and you have no idea what even the tech side does. I think you need some people who are like this, who overlap. That you have somebody who is more on the technical side and somebody who is more on the business side. They understand each other really well. They can kind of jump into each other's fields to support, but you have to cover the range. Yeah.
All the skills you have talked about so far, what's the best way to develop it? As university is not the place where you learn these stuff. Especially you are a living proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
You have learned them yourself without stepping in a university. How do you learn them? How do you really learn how to build a company?
Mm-hmm.
How to communicate, how to sell, how even like to build a product?
I mean, let's start with building the product and on the tech side. Today the learning cycles and the iteration cycles are shrinking, especially for software. But and that means also people with less technical abilities, like them on this side of the spectrum, they can build products much easier, much faster, much more efficient. If you're building a really technical product, that might be hardware, that might be some real hard software science algorithm things that you can't just auto-generate, then you will have likely spent a number of years on developing that skill. So that skill, I think, is really something you'll have to learn, and I didn't learn it in university. I learned it by doing. Of course, I read stuff as well, but then it's just hardcore figuring it out. The other things, like more on the how to build product, on how to iterate and how to communicate and so on. I think yes, you can learn by doing, you can learn by reading. I think what really helped me is having people who have skills in this, who supported me as advisors or as mentors. But ultimately, I think the real test is when you actually do it. Like if you want to learn storytelling, start telling a story. and start telling it to many different people and learn and look how you're feeling in your body when you do it, and practice. And then it's the same thing then for iterating your product iterations. You just have to go and do it, because reading only gets you so far. I know some people are really strong in their minds. They read something and they completely get it. For me, I read something, I need to try it out, I need to do it, and then I can then
I feel it.
I feel it, and I can learn from it.
Okay, let's say for anyone who's listening, who's young, who's 25, and wants to start a business, startup, how would you advise them to start? And what's the most important first step that they should take?
I would ask them, first I would ask them why. Why do you want to start a startup? And what does it mean for you? And I mean, really, do you just want to build something because you love building things? Or do you want to make a lot of money? Or do you want to acquire a certain skill? Or is this a career ladder because you want to do something else later on? Or you want to do it because your friend is doing that and you really want to collaborate with them? Like, there's so many reasons of why to even start in the first place. So I would get really clear on what that is. Maybe it's just for shits and giggles because you love building stuff and you think that is the best way to make an impact in the world. Good, great. But then, so once you have clarity on the why, that, from my perspective, also dictates what type of thing you might want to work on. I'm saying this because you could build a super meaningful, large organization that is not necessarily a tech startup that is VC funded, right? So that's a very specific track of a startup that you could build. But you could build a super impactful organization that has hundreds or thousands of volunteers, doing great work in the world, and you are really putting yourself into a leadership position there and building it from scratch because you believe this thing needs to exist. Very different track. And I think to the question, what is the first step, or in which area they should build? Pick an area that you really care about. There's this notion of what is something that you would want to work on, even if you know you would fail. You know, would fail multiple times maybe. And that is something I think would be worth working on, because the likelihood that you're going to fail is really high. You're going to learn along the way, beautiful. But if you're working on something that you're doing, back to the first why, you're doing it because of the wrong reason, or you're working on something that you actually don't really believe in should exist, and you're very likely going to fail, that's a disaster recipe. So rather pick something that you really care about or you're really, really curious about. Like in my case, I was I was really curious about how would we build this large system connecting the large enterprises with all of their suppliers and so on. I was just really curious to figure that out and really optimize everything around that. There wasn't a big, deeper why. Then later, when I went into the crypto space, there was a deeper why. What would a new financial system look like? How would that look like? And now when I work in climate, I have 100% conviction why I work in this area, because I believe the planet and we on it are going to go through a transition over the next decades. That is something like we have never seen before. And we need technology, we need systems, we need financial systems, we need supply chains, we need everything that is ready for this transition. And so there's a deep why. So even if what I'm doing now will fail, doesn't matter. I know I'm working on this for a very specific reason, and because I think it needs to exist. And I think that will be the first step, to be really clear on these things. And then, of course, looking what is a market that makes sense to build in, getting clear on the business proposition, and you can do all of the cool stuff of making sure that the sizing of the market, and does it exist, and where would you start rolling these things out, and all of that. But these are more the tools that would come on top for me, rather than the starting point. And you need to have the right co-founders and all of that. Yeah.
Let's take me for an example. I will be honest and try to answer most of the questions. I would love to start a startup. The why? Because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy building stuff. I enjoy just putting my head into something that I like. If you put me for hours working on something I don't like, I still will do it, I will hate each second
of course.
of it. I will be
Of course
like,
you would hate it.
I will be like, whatever. Like for other people, it might sound really good or really fun, this job, but for me, no,
Mhm.
I don't have a theme or a topic where I tell you I would love to go for it or
Yeah.
curious about it.
Yeah.
I just like getting my hands dirty, building it, creating the systems, infrastructure, talking to people, and pushing it to a vision that I don't see yet, but just to prove to myself that I can do it.
Cool. So there's something about you love creating stuff, you love figuring things out, proving yourself that you can do it. I also heard talking to people, so
Yeah.
that is something. But you said there's also stuff that you don't like to work on. So there's already a distinction of areas that you would want to invest your time in and others where you wouldn't invest your time
Yeah,
in.
100%. I'd like, for example, to work on software rather than hardware. Although
Okay,
I
cool.
would still can I can put a bit of work on hardware, but
Yeah.
it's just I don't have an area or a market or an industry. I will tell you that's mine. Automotive, I don't know. Like have some friends who are like automotive is like the dream for them. They will be like having all their internships, everything just in the automotive because
Yeah.
they just like cars.
Okay.
I didn't have that. Since a child, I'm like more on every side, more plug-in everywhere. I can understand a bit of everything, but not the expert.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care about what problem I'm gonna fix.
Mm-hmm.
I just care more about fixing it.
Okay. So you could prototype, like finding out a couple of different areas and work out to find out what is really clicking for you and what keeps you up at night. And I hear already that what keeps you up at night is the problem solving. So I would also, in your case, I would also look at who are the people who you really, really enjoy and what are they working on? Because it sounds more for you that it's not the specific thing, but you're going to work with these people day in, day out. So you want to have people who you trust and enjoy being around. You could also see who are people who are building things, who are inspiring you, because that could be something to track. It's like, wow, this person, she's working on blah, 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 and I really love her style and I love what she's bringing into the world. So that could be a track to follow. You can see this is an area where you'd want to spend time. And I, if I were you, I would also take a step back from just the fixing stuff and figuring things out, but taking a step back and reviewing what is the world you want to see in 10 years' time. And is there anything in that world where you would say that would be interesting to have contributed to that? Because I can tell you, if you look at it, is it a more efficient payment rails for banks? Is it that the energy system of the future is working more efficiently and transparently and accessible? Is it maybe that you care about defending, like defense tech in the sense of you want to create security for the continent or the countries that you're living in? Is it something more that helps people directly by X, Y, and Z? So I'm just saying that if you take a step back and review areas where you would say, hey, this is what I would want to see in the future, that is an indicator to look at. And I want to throw in one more thing, is because I recently talked with an entrepreneur, actually at the same event where I met you.
Which one?
At the Sigma Summit.
Oh yeah, which entrepreneur?
I'm not going to say I'm not going to say her name, but I don't want to call her out. But she asked me, we were sitting there, and she asked me, so I want to work on climate stuff, and I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I want to contribute to saving the planet, or whatever the words were she used. And then we went through, so there's a couple of books. For example, Drawdown is one, and the other one is Speed and Scale. They outline a lot of different solutions that are ready to be implemented, and you need to scale in order to achieve drawdown in the one case, to suck CO2 out of the air, and Speed and Scale, beautiful way of putting OKRs to planetary health, so energy, CO2 removal, and so on. So there's a big catalog of stuff. And so we went through the catalog of stuff, and we looked at what is something that would turn her on to work on. and that was, I was like, oh, okay, this thing is interesting to me. So that is another way to look at.
What about if someone is built in for the money? Because I know most startups don't make it, but
Yeah.
the few that we see online and the lifestyles like we see nowadays on TikTok, Instagram is like shiny star cars, I don't know, big homes, private jets, whatever, and everyone, especially my age, are like, we want that.
Mm-hmm.
And to be that, you need to build a business, you need to sell it, and then you will have the money, and then you will have this dream and happiness and la vie en rose. Is it true? Or even is it a reason to start a business?
Yeah.
If it's for money.
Yeah. So if you are not at all driven by money, if money is really, you don't care at all, then it's probably not the best idea to start a business, a for-profit business, because for-profit business means you're creating something that you want to sell, that you want to make money with. If you take on investors, you want to make them money. So there's a certain type of money money driver that would be good to have. If all you're obsessed about is just money and you're just doing it for the money, maybe there are other ways how you could make money instead of trying to start a startup that most likely, statistically speaking, most likely is going to fail, and you're going to grind like crazy building this thing. Maybe not.
What's then the other way? Because if you want to build something that you enjoy,
Yeah, you could take a really high-paying job at one of the existing technology companies, for example.
then you will be selling your life because it's going to be tough, it's going to be hard, and it's going to be not joyful anymore.
But
I'm talking from perspective because I also have the money
yeah.
in there. I know it's the wrong goal to have, but I would also love to have a bit of money if I put too much work and working 90 hours a week.
I get it. It's a big sacrifice to just put that amount of work. But I think it's not bad to do it for the money also, because ultimately you're working towards, or if you start a startup and you do the venture route, you're working towards an exit or an acquisition or
IPO.
an IPO or whatever it is, and there is a monetary driver. I don't think it's bad, personally. I think it's perfectly reasonable to build something that you believe in, that is exciting, that does something good for the world, and make boatloads of money doing it. I'm just saying, there are other jobs where you can have more security about making money, especially if you went to university or you have there actually the degree stuff actually helps. Like for me, I don't know what my career trajectory would have been at another company. I don't know. But there are other ways how you can make more reliably good money. And especially in a startup early on, you're not going to make a lot of money. You might not pay yourself any salary or very little salary. If you're raising some cash, you're not going to pay yourself very high salaries in the beginning, because that's also not what the investors want to see. They want to see that you're taken care of and you don't have to worry about money, of course. But also you're not going to get the exact salaries that you might see somewhere else. That comes later. So it is a thankless job in a way in the very beginning. And that's also why I said earlier, really checking why you want to do it, and really anchored in the wish of, I want to build this because I truly believe it should exist, or like I want to build this, like you said, because I really want to figure out how this works and make this work. That's a great motivator, and then money will come with that. That's my opinion.
Going to the other perspective, where you say that startups most likely are gonna fail. Some people have the right motives, have the right mindset, but for them, rationally, it does not make sense to start a startup because there is a higher chance that it's gonna fail. Why should I even start? What would you tell them? Why do you want to build a startup? Why should I build a startup knowing that there is a 90% chance it's gonna fail?
I think you should do it if you're really burning for it. Like if this is a thing that you cannot not do. Like even if you say, like you said, I need to try this out. I need to build something. Like if there's like this creative spark, and that's also what I actually define as entrepreneurship. Like you have a creative spark and you work on bringing this creative spark into reality. If this is a driver that you have, then go do it. Yeah, of course. And then don't be a fool about it. Like learn how to do it right and iterate and build something meaningful. But that is the thing, because like for me, it still is baffling sometimes to me when I now, like I don't write big software right now anymore, but when I create something, it's like I just created something out of nothing. This is amazing. Like, and that's what entrepreneurs do. And of course, they don't create it out of nothing, because there's generations of people building stuff before that you can now utilize and create things. But you're creating a vision of the future, and you're creating it today. I think this is like so satisfying. I think it's hugely meaningful, and I mean that's why I would say build something, go do something, build something that you specifically actually need to bring into the world. Go for it. I'm all there.
What if it fails? Then it's gonna feel sad and bad about it.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
Yeah.
Have you ever had, I don't know, have you ever had a person who you were in love with?
Yeah.
And have you ever had your heart broken, or did it not work out? Are you gonna do it again?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Sorry, I'm not calling it. But it's like, of course, that you're gonna fail, and even when it works well, like let's pick Taulia for an example. We were 4 Germans who started Taulia. Yeah,
In Silicon Valley.
3 of us were in San Francisco.
Okay.
We never raised money. We started in San Francisco, and we had no network in San Francisco. The only thing that we did before is we built enterprise software before in Germany, sold globally to companies as well. And then we started building this baby. We started selling with customers, starting fundraising. It's quite an uphill battle in many ways. Then one of our co-founders, like we had so much friction, like really, it was like talking about co-founder conflicts. We can write a whole book about that one, just from that one experience. So even when it was going well, we had like, it just like wave after wave of shit.
What kind of shit? What kind of conflicts? Because I would love to know what kind of fights did you have. If I start a startup, I would love to expect what kind of fights I'm gonna have.
Oh yeah, we can have just a conversation around this. But just I'm gonna go back to this, or remind me if I forget going back about it. But all I'm saying is, even when it's going well, it feels like sometimes it's not going well, because there's just always like, somebody used this picture recently. It's like it feels like you're racing a freight train and you're putting down the tracks while you're doing it. And it's just hugely stressful. So I'm saying it might even feel like you're failing while you're actually succeeding. So and at the same time, I know it for myself. I have a creative spark. I need to create. If I'm not creating, I'm like, of course, I take a break as well, and I take rest, and I'm getting better at taking rest, like just that. But I need to create, and that I think is pure fulfillment, in a way that you're creating something meaningful with people, and then when you see it, actually it works, and people are using it. I think this is great. And sometimes it doesn't work, like our QR code thing. I think we put a year and a half and a lot of our money into it. Didn't work out really well. So I think also.
Going back now to the conflict.
Yes.
You're not leaving without it.
And I'm going to give you a little bit of a politician answer in a way that is socially acceptable in a way, because ultimately underneath it is we just had really different values of how we treat people and how we communicate with people and how we treat each other. And it was not collaborative on that level. We collaborated on other things and we built the business, but he was just he works differently with people, and it was hugely frustrating. It was hugely it was just constant conflict when I'm telling you I want to go this way, and the other person says, no, we're going to go this way, and here are my 10 arguments, and just not coming together. It's a lot of conflict. And other constellations have different type of conflicts. Like one conflict, also had this before, where one co-founder works more than the other. And then the one person feels like they're pulling the other one along. The other one says, leave me alone, I do what I can. So that is also an area of conflict. There's conflict in terms of how successful people want, how people want it to be successful or not successful, monetary wise, how much energy they want to give into it. Commitment is often a point of friction that we see. Also just sheer abilities, right? Imagine you starting a company with another person, and then you find out they're actually not as good as they are, and yet they have 50% of the company. Like, what are you going to do? That's conflict, and you have to have this this hard conversation at some point. It's like, hey, I believe like you're actually not the right person for the role, and we need to change something. So it's a lot of that.
Really good topic. I can go here alone like for hour. What's the framework of mind that an entrepreneur should have to build a successful startup? How can he push through? What kind of mentality he should have with all of these conflicts arising? Social life will take a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Work-life balance most of the time does not exist. Hopefully it exists a little bit, but what kind of mentality, what kind of frame of mind that you should have to first have a joyful time while building the stuff that you're building,
Mm-hmm.
and succeed in it?
What frame of mind? I mean, I feel like I might say something similar to what I said before, is that you need to be a little bit crazy in a way to go on this journey of a startup founder.
Are you crazy?
I'm most certainly crazy, yes. Yes, you can ask my friends, they probably would also say.
Okay, interesting.
In the sense, again, you're going to give up a lot that other people value in their lives: security, safety, like social life, and these kind of things. And it is a sacrifice in a way. But I think what makes it sustainable is if you building something that's meaningful for you. Like my dear co-founder, like for 20 years, co-founder Max, we've built most of the stuff together. Also now my partner in our fund and how we invest together, he always says he doesn't believe in work-life balance in the way, because what he does, he loves so much that it doesn't really feel like work to him. So it's his life. What he's building is also his life. And I think there's some truth in that is that you want to work on something that doesn't feel like, oh, I need to go and do this thing at work now. I'm gonna let you type the thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I'm really picking a lot of stuff here. But what kind of inner work, what kind of work that you should put first before even starting the journey and within the journey of building your own venture?
Yeah. If you're going on this journey, you can expect that it will take years to build something meaningful at scale. Of course, it might be meaningful for you from the beginning, but to scale it, it will take years. You can expect that the world will change. Like the world 5 years ago looked very different than the world it looks today, and will look very different in 5 years. The people who you work with will be very different. Maybe the actual people changed. Maybe they got a new partner. Maybe they have a child. Maybe they get sick. Maybe their interest changes, maybe, and also you will change at the same time, because hopefully you're not the same person that you were 5 years ago, and hopefully you will be very different 5 years from now. And so the inner work for me is that is really important for anyone, but also for founders and leaders, people in leading positions, is that they are self-reflective in a way, that they can really look at themselves, that they take feedback from the outside, that they ask for feedback, that they might work with a coach or a mentor or somebody who they trust, who can kind of help them and guide along the way. There's very practical things that I think are part of the inner work, is that you do take deep breaks and for time for reflection, that you do things like meditation, whatever meditation means for you. It could be your sport, it could be sitting meditation, can be doing your yoga or your dance or whatever it is, and constantly support yourself in this evolution. Like over the next 5 years, you're going to change a lot. How can you be the best version of yourself, for yourself first and foremost, but then also for your colleagues, for your partner, for your family? I think drop gravity at work. That is super important, and like something very simple in the sense is to have a coach, somebody who is on your sidelines, changing your coach also over time, who you're working with. That's a very simple and effective way. And I'm super happy I can give you, I mean, this has been a lot of my life as well, of doing the inner work to then show up and be the person I want to be. And it's an ongoing journey, of course, but I'm super happy to also give you very other specifics if that's helpful.
You said at the beginning that at some point you were delusioned in Silicon Valley. Why was you delusioned?
Yeah. So right when I moved to San Francisco, again, I had no idea that this place existed. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. People build stuff and people make stuff just because it's cool. And what I noticed for myself was that this drive from my side to just create and figure things out, like similar to what you're saying, is that somehow got hijacked by the Silicon Valley machine that is in itself, you need to go faster, you need to go bigger, you need to do more, you need to raise more capital to go to the next round, It's very much set up for this venture scale. And what I didn't notice for myself is that my creative spark actually got hijacked for this. So I was not creating just for the creating sake anymore, not figuring stuff out for that, but I was serving. It's like, oh no, we need to raise the next round, and I need to and I need to deliver more for this and this and this, and that turned for me super unhealthy. And I think there's so I was delusioned in a way because I saw what this way of working did to me at the time. So I was really burned out. And I saw other people getting to the same place, getting really burned out, being sick, not taking care of themselves. So for me, it's an ongoing question. How can we build venture scale business, global scale business, and at the same time make sure that people are not burning out, but they stay healthy, that they can then go found their second, third, fourth company, take all the learnings from there. But I didn't see that much in Silicon Valley. It was more getting the most out of the people at that moment in time. And I just needed to take a break from that.
How was the break? What have you done to kind of know that now you're ready to go again and start another venture and come back to the entrepreneurial bubble, as I like to call it?
Yeah. I really took time off and time away. I did completely different stuff. I love hardware stuff as well, even though my career is in software. So I was tinkering with like more hardware stuff. I was building a table, and I was like, just not that. I was also focusing at that time already more on the relational work. So a friend of mine and we started a project specifically for coaches and people who are looking for a coach, and working on relational topics. And then slowly was starting to talk with my ex-co-founders and came back and decided to go in another round into the crypto space. And then I came to a point where it's like, I'm burning out. So I did it twice. So fool me once, but fool me twice. Shame on me. So I really, after the second time, I actually needed to take really a year and a half off. And I didn't know if I'm ever going to do anything software related or startup related again.
Actually, have a question regarding that because a lot of people, students or business owners, consultants, always say, I burned out or I'm on the verge of burning out.
Yeah.
But what does mean to burn out? What does it feel like?
What does it feel like? In 2019, so I was back in Berlin. So San Francisco. I left San Francisco, moved to Berlin 2016, 17. We started Centrifuge there. And
The crypto company.
The crypto company, exactly. Also grew pretty fast, pretty successful. And I had, 5-8 kilos less than I do right now. I would not sleep very well. I would constantly feel like I have to, like it was more of a drudge, like really getting up, doing things. I was always on, like not taking any breaks. I was bulimic for the last few years, being at Centrifuge. So meaning I was not nourishing myself. I was emotionally not well. Like all of that, of course, played together, and how it feels from the inside is really, it's really terrible. Like that thing that should create the spark that I said earlier, that the creative spark to bring something to the world, all of a sudden turned around, and it is a burden that I'm serving, that I'm serving somebody else's expectations, or maybe it's not the idea anymore that I originally wanted to create. And it feels devastating because I'm failing myself, I'm failing my friends, I'm failing my co-founders, I'm failing my investors, I'm failing my team. So there's a lot of that, and I didn't have any energy anymore. So the first step was really there to say, to talk with Max, my co-founder, and it's like, hey, this is what's going on. And he's like, dude, we need to change that. And so then slowly finding a way to transition and changing things up.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Let's go more to the startup world nowadays and the different industry and technologies we have. What would you say are the emerging technologies and industries where you could build something successful and at the same time have positive impact? We could start by climate, as you are the expert in it.
Yeah, I hope that, I know there's so many more experts than me, but so I've been, maybe just a little bit of background because I didn't mention that before. So I've been transitioning from building companies myself and supporting others. Like first with Max, with our family office or our own angel investments over the years, and now also with Earth as a VC fund.
Yeah, we're coming to Earth.
And what we, in that transition, I also transitioned to really focusing on climate-related startups over the last. Why?
Why climate?
That's a good one. And also, what does it actually mean when I say climate?
Exactly.
Because that also kind of goes maybe back to the question of the technologies, the emerging technologies. I came to a point in my life where I looked really hard at why am I doing what am I doing? Right, I mentioned that. And with this, it's not only for me, but also what am I using my resources, time, experience, knowledge, network, and money? What am I using that for? And for me, it was clear I'm only going to use that for stuff that is not only serving me, but also the planet as a whole. And that sounds a little bit cheesy, but in a way, I couldn't build another fintech just to help large corporates to be more efficient with their money right now. I just couldn't do it. But I could build a fintech that is helping large enterprises to invest in their supply chains, to decarbonize the products that they're building, to track how many emissions are being generated, to allow their suppliers to reinvest into being more energy efficient or whatever, because that has a direct impact into climate. So I think that is a big shift for me. So for me, I call this thing the climate awakening that many people I talk to actually have. Often it's with people who, when they have kids, they realize, oh, it's about building a better world, not only for me, but also for my kids and future generations. That's a common one, where they then have a shift of, wow, I built all of this worldly success. Now let me actually use it for something meaningful. Or maybe they had a trip to a country that is not as well off as their own country, and they see what climate change does already there and what will come to their place very, very soon. It's like, oh shit, I need to do something about this. So I had my version of that, like 2019, 2020. So that was the why. And so now the question, back to the question of the emerging technologies. Wow, where to start? Actually, maybe I'd backtrack for a second. Is that climate, when I talk about climate, I don't mean necessarily only impactful companies, but I mean that the way how industry is manufacturing things, how we are dealing with energy, how we're creating energy, how we're storing energy, electricity, how we're building buildings, how we're producing food, and all of that will change over the next decades and is changing already. And that has a climate impact. So all of that is part of climate and climate tech for me. And that means we're going to have more resilient food supply chains, for example. That means we'll have more flexible grids, more renewables, because renewable energy is cheaper and more versatile, and so on. So that's what I mean with climate. And emerging technologies, you can go really hard on the hard science. Like you have new materials that are being researched that cost less energy to produce, or that are more durable, or that maybe sequestering CO2. You have emerging technologies, of course, AI as a big one to make. But really, I think it's a great tool to make sense of data in a way that hasn't been able to be made sense of in the past, or to optimize things. What else can I? We see actually a bunch of things that are more related to sensors and how we collect data and how we measure stuff. We see new business models that again are financing the supply chain and agricultural changes, how people are treating land. So that is an emerging thing. I'm just going to stop there because I feel like I'm just rattling off stuff which yeah.
But can you balance making revenue, making money, and at the same time making positive impact?
I think it's not even about balancing. It's about having an interlock of what you're building. The more you build of it, the more you sell of it, the better the outcome for the climate will be. So it's not necessarily about balancing. There are these businesses as well where, like, how much can you charge, and like maybe you have a green premium that you need to pay and so on. But I think I want to see these businesses succeed that have a better product. Let's pick energy as an example. Have a better product that's cheaper, and bring that to market. Like, there's no question if it's greener or not. Like, just it is.
Going back to your fund, what's exactly Earth? What do you do there?
That's a good question. So Max and I, we built companies together from small scale to large scale, and then started investing together over the years. And that's what turned into Earth. So we have over 100 companies that we invested over the years from our own money. And now we're also taking other people's money to invest into the hopefully next unicorns that have, like, the future of industry, that have a really technology and innovation-driven approach to solving some of the biggest challenges, and they all have a climate angle and a climate positive impact. baked into them. And very specifically, we go very early, so pre-seed seed. So it might be 1 to 3 people with an idea who are
Pure idea.
Yeah, pure idea. I mean, you have to have the people too, and the people need to be able to execute on the idea. But I love meeting people when they have an idea, and if it's a good idea, if it's a good team, then we are super happy to help there. They might have a first prototype. If you're so very early, that's also something that we love, and that's the stage of the company is something that we love, and also where we can have a lot of additional support.
I would love to talk about your investing hypothesis, especially that I know a lot of VCs, they like quite invest in pre-seed and seed.
Yeah.
But honestly, they say they invest in ideas and just people. But working in VC now since half a year, most of them are lying. For everyone who's listening, they're gonna look into your financials. They want kinda to see that you have more than an idea, even for pre-seed. Because pre-seed is just you're investing in the people. You don't really have an MVP, you don't really have a product market fit. You're still 3 people in a room who have an idea, did a bit of research, validated it, and they want to bring it to the market. They usually need this money because their product cannot be developed without that money. So what's your approach to this investment? How do you really invest? And what's the crazy startup or investment that you have done? Because I've heard some crazy stuff. I can share later, but I would love to hear yours.
And that's a bunch of questions in one. I mean, so when I say we're investing early, that is really the case. I mean, just looking back at our portfolio, that from our own money, there were a bunch of them who had an idea. Of course, they had some first prototype to flesh out the idea, but they didn't have any customers yet. I think there it becomes really important that it is a person who I can trust, that they, with some support, can take this idea and actually talk to customers and sell it and bring it to the market. And quite frankly, not many people can do this, or like it's a special type of founder. Once you have the first proof of that, like you have the first customer, then it's de-risking it a lot. So the companies where we go really early, like it's really amazing founders where she or he has this very specific spark. Maybe they have built something similar in an adjacent market before. Maybe we know them already for a couple of years. Like we had one, a friend of ours, he's building something in climate fintech, and we know him from the crypto times still. Like 2.5 years ago, met him, and then we were hearing from him what the idea was that he was developing. It's like, okay, we love you. You have an amazing background, fintech, as well as enhanced rock weathering, so a type of sequestering carbon. And he was developing something, even had no customers, no whatever. It's like, we're backing you. So it's really the person. And that is, quite frank, that is hard to find. But those people, I love to back very early, because it's also fun then to develop the idea with them.
Because they are your friend. But then the competition got high because you either invest in people you know or people who have the experience in quite this market. What about fresh students out of university who are really driven and have an idea? How would they approach you? And how can they make a strong case for you to consider them and hopefully invest in them?
I mean, how you can approach it, send me or us an email. There's like an email on the website, and you send a message. But much better is that you have somebody who can introduce you, because investing is really a numbers game, in the sense that you see a lot of potential investment opportunities.
How many people reach out to you?
I mean, I recently saw the number where they have like 1,300 contacts to make 12 investments or 10 investments or something like this. So those are not our numbers, but from a friendly fund, we just talked about this.
But that's similar to every VC.
Yeah.
But how many reach out to you personally on your email or whatever, telling you, hey, Philip, we have this crazy idea,
Yeah.
without knowing you even?
Without knowing, a bunch a week. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, even for us now, we're building Earth as a fund right now, right? So when we were really in the heydays of investing as angels, so we scaled down the angel stuff, now ramping up the VC side. Like it's a lot per week, even as angels, and now with the VC fund ramping up, it's ramping up again. Yeah. But back to the question of how to reach out is having a person then to cut through the noise. Like you need to have some kind of signal to pop out of the noise. Of course, we can read all the stuff, but something needs to be special, and that might either be very special to my background or to Max's background or to the person's background who you're reaching out to, or it might be because you're getting it through an introduction from somebody else, or it might be that you saw one of us at some kind of panel discussion or whatever, and it's like, hey, I saw your panel, I really loved da. And actually you say that you make a direct connection, and it's a lot of work. I get it.
Someone ever reach out to you because they saw you on Spark? Please let me know. Okay. I would love to. That will be an achievement for me.
I will. But I hope even if they don't reach out to me, I hope they to invest. I hope they get something and actually build something really cool.
Will.
But back. What was the rest of the question?
How do they cut through the noise? So they cut now through the noise.
Yeah.
How would have a strong case? They got the first meeting with you.
So they need to be freaking passionate about what they're building. They need to understand it already in and out. They need to understand the problem space that they're working in. They need to understand who else exists in this space. And I'm not saying like, give me like a market size, so and so many billions and blah, blah, blah. It's like really understand what you're working on and have a vision for where this will go. You need to understand who are the potential customers in there. Like when I talk to them, I need to feel like I talk to somebody who lives and breathes this stuff. Like, unfortunately, too often we saw founders who come with an idea, and when we start talking with them, like we know more than they do in some areas of their business. That's not supposed to be like that. Like you need to know, living and breathing what you're doing.
When you started your own business, did you have the same mentality of living
and breathing
your business?
Yeah.
Like, did you know the in and outs of this market?
So, good one. QR codes?
Yeah.
Not so much.
Okay.
Like that one also didn't go so well.
Failed for a reason.
But but also from the day we started, I was living and breathing it. We were living and breathing it. There was nothing else about it. Like I could tell you all the mobile optimization, whatever stuff I was building, like on that side, for example, or what it means to scan with this and that and reaching out to people. But before that, didn't know so much, but then I was really in it. For Taulia, for sure, we knew exactly the customers, the market. We didn't know exactly how we're going to go about it, but also it was then our third company, right? So we knew this. Yeah. And then Centrifuge, actually 2016, getting into crypto. Ethereum just had launched around the time. Yeah. When we went in there. So it was a very young ecosystem, and we actually didn't have so much connection in that ecosystem. So the first thing for us was really getting deeply entrenched into what does it mean to build on blockchain? How does this work? Who are the players? How do we even build ourselves? How do we connect this to the existing financial system at the time? Right? So Centrifuges bringing stuff from the real world or from the 3D space onto blockchain. So really understanding that very deeply. And there quickly we were one of the leading teams who we coined the term DeFi with a handful of other projects together. Like this is the term that we defined, and most of the projects are not around anymore, but like we really were in it and we're living and breathing it. Like that's otherwise somebody else is living and breathing it, and it's just gonna compete you, outsmart you, and so on.
But just to understand, what does living and breathing? Understand the market.
Understand the market, understand
The key players.
understand let's pick blockchain for an example. Really understanding the philosophy of blockchain. What does it mean to build on blockchain? It's very different than if you build a traditional fintech, as an example. That means, for me anyways, it meant I co-organized ETH Berlin, the ETH Berlin hackathon for 2 years. I was part of the core team there. Like, it was my life.
Okay.
And that's kind of going back to the work-life balance in a way. I want to invest people who are working on something that is their life, not in a pathological way that they, again, not burning out, but I need to look at them and I need to get the feeling of, wow, you really burn for this. And then I need to be able to poke a little bit and then say, okay, you really understand. You're not only, you didn't learn under the buzzword catalog, but you also understand what's actually underneath it.
How do you get to know? How do you get to live and breathe then? Let's say you're passionate about the market, about a problem. How can you go and really get to know more and more about the market? Because you can spend hours reading scientific papers about the topic. How would you say, how can you like speed up this process where you can have the initial amount of information needed so I can feel confident enough to write you an email, hey Philip, I have an idea, let's have a call?
I mean, there's who do you spend time with and how? Like, let's hypothetically, you wanna build something in the climate space.
Okay.
Or let's say you want to build something in the climate space with data and AI. Let's just say, like, not maybe not the best example, but just say. So I would, if that would me, I would go to AI meetups. I would find out what is the best meetups or events that are happening around my place where I live, and go show up there and talk with the people who are building in this space already, who are ahead of me, and learn and absorb and bounce ideas and strike and make friendships with them, or collaborations in whatever way to have direct impact. I would also go to the climate meetups, because there are tons of them, and understand what other people are doing, and again build relationships and find also people who I can bounce off ideas with and get challenged on stuff. And the data side, same thing. Like, are you spending your evenings massaging big data sets and trying to get novel ideas out of them? Great, then you are in it. And also, it's not so relevant anymore that you have to be physically in a place, but I would encourage you to spend time physically in a place where people are building and working on the same stuff as you're doing. And that might mean you move to a certain city, or maybe in your specific university where something that's interesting to you, etc. Or maybe you go for the summer to city X and spend the time there and really get involved in that ecosystem. That for me means living and breathing it.
Fair. But as a student, as an example, especially that a lot of us are students.
Yeah.
The whole team behind the camera, in front of the camera, are all students.
Yeah.
Have a chance to get invested by you, by Earth. We're all driven.
Yeah.
We come from a community of entrepreneurs, and we meet a lot of crazy people, but
unlikely if you're still in university and you're doing it as a side job. Like, that it's unlikely that you're gonna get any VC investing in you.
For sure.
So, but if you are done with what you're doing, more likely, then again, the mixture of drive and grit, and are you living and breathing it, is a really important one. If it's just students who just came out and who have no real relevant experience working in this field, it's going to be tough, in the sense that you need to have an ability to prove in a way, or to make it likely that you will succeed. And if you have not worked on anything specific before, you don't have anybody on your team with an experience to say, hey, I sold XYZ software to XYZ customer before, maybe even in a different space, or maybe I built XYZ system. So I can extrapolate, like, you're fucking amazing. You're going to do this thing now and build a company out of it, amazing. If you don't have any proof points, it's going to be really tough, to be really, really honest. But you can have proof points because maybe you worked on something during your university already, during your studies, or you have somebody on your team who is not straight out of university, but a couple of years out of university and building it. But also, the other thing is, you don't necessarily have to start a startup straight out of university. You could build another project for a while that is not necessarily something where you want to attract VC money, or you could bootstrap it for a year or a year and a half and develop the idea and build something adjacent and then go raise VC money. I just want to say, you don't have to straight after your degree build a company that raises VC. There's many different avenues how you could, maybe you join an early stage startup for a little bit, and then it's like, okay, now I'm going to build this thing.
Because a lot of students nowadays, as soon as they finish studying, it's cool now to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to be the cool guy. Everyone wants to be...
I love it.
I'm the CEO bitch, as in the social network, where like it's a common trait that like everyone now have a card going around. I'm an entrepreneur, and everyone's doing it for the sake of doing it. Some of them really succeed, although they don't have a specific why or passion or even the knowledge or the domain expertise. They just, I don't know if it was luck, if it was just the right time, with the right technology, with the right motive. But would you say then it's really hard for people with no expertise, fresh grads, to make it in startup world? And if yes, how would you say, how can you build the credibility and maximize your chance of succeeding?
First off, to what you said, to the picture that you painted, like everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and have their CEO business cards and so on. On the one side, I love it because I really deeply believe in the entrepreneurial spirit of making stuff. On the other side, I also hate it because it's like a glorified picture, like the Social Network movie. It's a very glorified picture, and so like I love it and hate it both at the same time.
Okay.
So one is before, if you have a business card that says CEO, and what are you CEO of? Like the domain that you bought, or like the the email account that you set up? It's like, great, like go build something and screw the title. Like just make something
happen.
So that kind of set the stage how I look at it, and to build up the credibility or the chance to showcase what you're building, also to hone your craft as an entrepreneur or as a technologist or as a product builder. Like you need to hone your craft as well. I think for me the best thing is to do it, and to do it could be, again, you join another startup who is early on. I think there's a really big difference being really early on, because and being like employee number 50, 60, it's a very different stage already. So trying to be really, really early. You can build stuff, again, that doesn't have to be venture scale from day one, but you can work on stuff that is within your realm of creativity. I mean, also lucky for you, as in your 20s, you don't have usually, and of course there are people who have, but you don't have so many obligations and financial commitments. So that means you have more flexibility of how you spend your time and where you spend your time. And the other things I already said, like spend time with the people, build stuff. Like you work in VC now, you said, I guess, I don't know what your trajectory is, or maybe where you want to go, but I guess you're learning and you're honing your craft and your ability to understand what it actually means practically, because in university you learn a lot of things theoretically. I think putting it into practice in whatever way, shape or form is one. Actually, one example that's coming to me again is back in San Francisco, spending time at these hacker houses. There's people who of course studied, but they also would spend their time otherwise hacking stuff and like building really cool things, and then you have something to show for.
Interesting. We need to wrap it up, sadly. I'm really having still a lot of questions. I think as soon as we kill the camera, I'm going to go through them. But what would you say for everyone who's listening, either undergrad, they have the experience or not? What would you tell them based on the experience? What's the advice that you'll give it to them, either to build a startup or to succeed in life or to find happiness? Philip, the floor is yours. Tell them what you want to tell them. The camera's there, and now you're talking to them, not to me anymore.
Now I talk to you. You are in your 20s, so you have a lot of life still in front of you. Like, this is the time to try out stuff, to fail on stuff, to figure out really what drives you, right? I talk about the questions of what motivates you, like really finding that out, and not what motivated your parents or your teachers or what society tells you. Like, I think it's really an amazing time to find out what really is, who are you, who is in there, and why you're doing the stuff that you're doing. And if you choose then to build a company out of that, or to start a nonprofit, or to volunteer, or build a huge factory that's building amazing new stuff for the new world, amazing, go for it. But I think this is so important to really look these couple of layers deeper and just try out stuff, build things. I'm of course prisoner of my own past, that I think learning theoretically is important, but you need to do it. You need to put stuff into practice. Stop talking about it. Go do it. Find people who inspire you. Ask them a bunch of questions. Ask for help. Find the right people who have been there, done that. Ask them for help for their lessons. I think that's it. And also be kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to the people around, because in the end, everybody is just trying to figure out what this actually means to be human at this planet, at this time. And if anybody tells you they have it figured out, don't trust them.
Philip, that was amazing.
Spark is proudly presented by Ripple Film, storytelling for tech, B2B, and beyond.